When those summer bass start to get finicky, a lot of anglers will switch to a finesse type of presentation to keep those bites coming. And that's a great way to do it. But when we think of a finesse type of presentation, we're generally associating that with a weightless type of presentation with light line and light gear, such as a spinning rod or BFS. And whatever you do, do not fish your finesse presentation anywhere near the slop. Well, I'm about to tell you that myth is completely wrong, and how I do most of my finesse fishing in and around slop. And that's where I'm getting a lot of huge bites. We're going to talk all about it, so stick around.
Slide it right in that little gap right there. The spot within the spot, right? That's what you're looking for. It's what they say. The spots within the spots. Come here, you. I got you. Ooh, that's not a bad one. That's not a bad one, kids. He's running with it. Oh, I can see him in this clear water. Where are you going? Oh, get out of that hydrilla. Look at that beautiful fish.
Welcome back to Lowbrow Fishing, and today we're looking at finesse fishing in the summertime. You know, it's a great way to get bites, but specifically we want to look at fishing finesse in the thickest slop on your fishery, going up under the flooded brush, going in the thick milfoil and the thick hydrilla, and the places where we are often told do not fish finesse in that area because, well, even if you can get your bait in there, you're going to lose the fish whenever you hook up. But I'm here to tell you that I do 90% of my finesse fishing is in the thick flooded stuff, because that's where I'm getting those great big bites, especially when those bass are feeling finicky. But before we get into it, if you like bass fishing content that always tries to be inclusive, whether you fish from a boat or whether you're fishing from the bank, and always thinking about budget, because not everyone has a lot of money to spend on bass fishing gear, then this is the channel for you. Click that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, give this video a like. I would really appreciate it. So let's look at this for a second, right? Whenever we're fishing finesse, we're looking at something that's got usually a weightless or lightweight presentation. It's a smaller pared down bait in a lot of instances, and we're fishing it on lighter tackle, lighter gear, something like a medium light or medium rod on a spinning combo, or even BFS, right? BFS is for bait cast finesse system. It's specifically made for casting light and small baits and working it in a finesse type of fashion. But why would I do that? Why would I take a finesse system and work it in the slop? Well, that's where the bass are. And just because they're in the slop, that doesn't mean that they don't want a finesse style presentation. You know, I will work a lot of areas, especially in the spring and especially in the fall. I'll work those same areas with a flipping jig, something that's in the 1/2 ounce or 3/4 ounce variety. I will also go through in those big hydrilla flats, and I will punch with a big punch rig, an 1 ounce or 1.5 ounce weight, just to get into those holes. But sometimes you just have to play the finesse game if you want to get more bites or any bites at all and some quality fish. And that's how I work most of the time during the summer. If I'm fishing more open water, I'm burning a crankbait or I'm fishing a football jig. But if I'm in the thick stuff, 9 times out of 10, I'm working a finesse type of presentation. Something like this guy right here, you know, the Waco rig. You already know, if you watch this channel, what this is. And so many guys have been coming to me saying, I've been catching fish with that. I've been catching nice fish with that. Just look in the comments section of the videos that I do, and there's even some nice pictures that guys have been sending me of 6, 7, 8 pound bass they've been catching with these. As a matter of fact, I've even seen a muskie caught with this particular setup. And it's just a 1/0 EWG hook, light wire with a 5-inch stick bait. In the middle, right here in the egg sac, I fold the worm in half and I push a 1/16 ounce nail weight in. I never go bigger than 1/16 ounce. I sometimes will use a 1/32 if I want an even slower fall. Now, what does that do? What is the advantage over, say, a weightless Texas rig? Well, you can take a 4/0 hook, a 3/0 hook, EWG, and you can rig a weightless stick bait on that, and you can work it around and get some amazing bites. It's great, and it's a definite finesse type of presentation that will get loads of fish. But the thing I like about the Waco rig is number one, is it's consistent. It's predictable. I can control how that bait works, and it works that way every single time. That bait flutters on the fall just like a wacky rig, but it also twitches and twirls in the water. But when I kill it, it goes right back to that same fall. So I know exactly what the bait's doing under the water. I don't have to guess. And the reason why I came up with the Waco rig in the first place is because, well, putting a wacky rig in the areas that I was fishing just wasn't an option. A lot of times, you're just getting hung up. You're getting that bait stuck in the weeds, stuck in the branches, or stuck in vegetation underneath the water. The Waco rig allowed me to fish the places that I wanted to with the wacky rig, yet still have that wacky type of presentation. One of the main ways that I use it, and the reason why I came up with it, is I wanted to be able to skip under flooded brush with a wacky rig. And while I was doing that for a long time, I kept having to yank and pull that wacky rig out, losing worms, having to take the boat up under there to try to get the worm out of the bush, spoiling the water. The Waco rig solves all of those problems. So it's specifically made for working under flooded brush. And this is definitely a finesse setup. I've got 10-pound braid on a 7-foot medium light with a softer tip. This is 100% finesse, and I'm working it in some of the gnarliest, nastiest stuff you can think. I skip it right up under there, and that's what I do most of the days. I'm beating the bank. I'm going right in the same places I would be flipping a jig, and I'm skipping up under that flooded brush, and I'm working that bait and bringing it back to me. As a matter of fact, take a look at this video from the last time I was out on the big lake, and you can see exactly what I was doing.
You don't want to be doing what I'm doing right now with a wacky rig. That's for sure. I can't tell if that was a turtle or a fish coming by it. Coming by my offering for these fish. Got him. Oh, he's a little bitty guy, but I got him. Come here, you. Come here, you. You're not super dink, but you're not a huge one. You're not a super dink. You're bigger than I thought you were. I thought you were just quit. 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 So get the hook out your face. There we go. Right at a pound, maybe just shy, but pretty close to it. Yeah, on that wacky rig, on that Waco rig rather, I'm flipping it up under this brush, skipping up under there, and that's where this little fellow was. Appreciate it, dude. Oop, and there he goes. Let's see if we can't get a bigger one.
So just going down the bank, nice and slow, skipping those areas. You know, a lot of times we're told, parallel the bank. Put your boat parallel to the bank, make casts, and bring it to you. A lot of time that works. If you're fishing a crankbait, if you're fishing a spinnerbait or a chatterbait or anything like that, a moving type of presentation, that's great. But a lot of times I want my boat to be facing more towards the bank, almost like a perpendicular style fashion. So that way, whenever I come across those open areas that I want to target, remember, the spot was within the spot. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for those juicy spots inside the spots. So if I see flooded brush and then boom, I see a gap in there where I can skip that bait in there. And that's where I work it. Then I look for the next spot. Maybe there's another area that's got maybe a log hanging out from under it. I can skip in there. So paralleling the bank is great, but if I'm more perpendicular, that allows me to make those targeted casts to those specific spots that I'm working for. And that's one of the reasons I like doing it that way. And I'm getting huge bites. You know, you guys have seen over the years how many fish I brought out from under flooded brush using a flimsy medium light rod with 10-pound braid. And some of these bass are really, really nice. You got to play them out. You can't just yoink them. You can't manhandle them. You have to let them play out. But at the same time, you try to get them to the boat as best as you can. They're peel and drag. They don't want to come back to you. So you just let them go for a little bit. You don't horse them. But when you figure out how to do that, you're able to catch and bring more bass to the boat on each successive trip. Now, another type of finesse fishing that I like to do is out in the middle of the hydrilla flats. Out there is a completely different game. We've got a whole field of hydrilla. And in between, you've got maybe little gaps that probably aren't even bigger than that wide. Again, you can take a jig, you can take a punching rig, and you can flip out in there, and you can spend your summers doing that. But at a certain point, that water gets so warm that those bass are not interested. They want to stay in that shade. They want to stay inside that cover. And that's where I go to something like this. A weightless fluke or a weightless soft plastic jerkbait. In this case, straight king caffeine shad. These things are probably everyone's favorite soft plastic jerkbait. Well, either that or the Zoom Super Fluke. But these are just great. I love that soft tail because it gives that whipping action in the water. And that's where I'm fishing the hydrilla flats. I'm using something like a weightless soft plastic jerkbait. And I usually use a 3/0 or a 4/0 EWG hook. In this case, this is a little bit more of a heavy gauge. This is a 3/0, but it's a little bit more of a heavy gauge. That is my weight source. And whenever I'm rigging that fluke on there, I'm making sure I'm rigging it as straight as I possibly can. I mean, an arrow straight, because that allows that bait to work cleanly and smoothly through the water. If you're off by just a little bit, that bait will just go to one side over and over and over again. And that can be very frustrating because it doesn't look nearly as natural to those bass. Something like that fluke, something like a soft plastic jerkbait, whenever you rig it straight, it'll kind of go side to side whenever you twitch it on slack line. And I'm fishing it in maybe 3 feet to 1.5 feet of water in the thickest slop. And I can catch great fish doing that. It's one of the main ways that I fish on a lot of the lakes around here during the summertime. So as that water gets hot, I'm able to cast out in those areas. And this might be more of a standard type of setup, right? I do have 30-pound braid on here with a medium heavy fast action rod. This is a 7-foot. But at the same time, the presentation that I'm using is finesse. So I'm still very much working it in that finesse type of area. And whenever I do get a bite, I'm able to bring that bass out. A lot of those bigger bass, they will bury themselves into that hydrilla. And you really have to put some effort to winch those bass out of there. Now, I can do it with a Waco rig. As a matter of fact, I've caught quite a few bass in those hydrilla flats using a Waco rig and had some great results. But I have to be a lot more careful. I have to let those bass work around a little bit more. You know, if they get buried into the slop, then rather than yoinking them out, I have to bring my boat over to them and then reach my hand in a lot of times. You know, it's the trade-off. But we have to do the things and we have to go to the places where those bass are in order to get them to bite. And when we can do that effectively, even in the summertime, we can keep those bites going. So if I'm in open water, fishing a deep crankbait, that's different. But a lot of times I'm still going after those shallow bass in the summer, the ones who are hiding up under the flooded brush or the ones who are hiding deep in the vegetation. And I can use a finesse presentation to go in there despite everything that we're told and catch really nice fish and bring them to the boat. So there you have it. Just because you have a lot of thick slop on your fishery, don't be afraid to throw a finesse style presentation right up into the thick of it. A lot of times, that's where those really big girls will be. And they don't want something fast and heavy. A lot of times they want something very slow, very subtle, and very light. Try these techniques out. I'm telling you, they work amazingly well. Thanks for watching Lowbrow Fishing. We'll catch you in the next one.